Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to Center Seat, my Star Trek podcast. Show. This has been a long time coming, because I am here today to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Yes, I know Season 3, I believe, has already ended. And yet here I am talking about Season 2. Well, like I said, it's been a long time coming because I did watch Season 2, I think, back in the spring of 2019. I want to say. I think I finished it in May of that year. And then about that time is when I had some changes at my job. And so I got really busy and could not get to certain things that I wanted to do, including set up time to talk about this particular season of Star Trek Discovery. And then, a pandemic hit the following year. And here we are. So I will say, while I did watch the show, I have not had the opportunity to go and rewatch any of these because I don't have access to the Paramount Plus, which was then CBS All Access. I don't have that yet, and I just decided I would just wing it because I did take notes shortly after I watched the series. And so what I have here are some notes for each episode. I was going to just quickly give you a rundown of the episode based on the Wikipedia synopsis, and then give you my thoughts on the particular episode. And then I will end with some overall thoughts about the season. But first, Star Trek Discovery Season 2 introduced us to some new characters, well, so to speak. They're new in terms of the actors' portrayals that we get now. Anyway, so at the end of Season 1, we saw the Enterprise. And if I remember correctly, we actually saw Captain Pike. Maybe? It's been a while. But we do get to see Captain Christopher Pike, captain of the Starship Enterprise, pre-Kirk, of course. And he is played by Anson Mount, who, spoilers, did a great job this season. And so, but I'll talk about that later. Ethan Peck as Mr. Spock, Rebecca Romaine as Una, and Tig Notaro as Jet Reno, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Bahia Watson as May Ahern. And while not new, he is returning this season, thank goodness, is Wilson Cruz as Hugh Culber. And I'll talk about that later too. So those are the major characters that are new, along with the usual gang of suspects from Discovery Season 1. Okay, on to the episodes themselves. The first episode is Brother. And so this is the description I pulled from the interwebs. En route to the planet Vulcan to pick up its new captain following the betrayal of Captain Gabriel Lorca during the Federation Klingon War. That never really should have happened. But anyway, go listen to my Season 1 overview. The USS Discovery receives a distress call from the USS Enterprise. Captain Christopher Pike takes emergency command of the Discovery and explains that the Enterprise was investigating 7 mysterious red signals when it was catastrophically damaged. All but one of the signals have disappeared, but it too is gone when Discovery arrives at its location. They discover the wreckage of the USS Hiawatha, which went missing during the war, on an asteroid made of non-baryonic matter, and inside they find engineer Jet Reno, nursing the last survivors of the crew. All are transported back to the Discovery. Commander Michael Burnham has a vision of a Red Angel while on the asteroid and later visits the damaged Enterprise to investigate the quarters of her foster brother Spock, who had previously taken leave for a personal investigation. She discovers that he had been having nightmares of those 7 signals. Okay, so I will say that first episode, as I recall, based on that description and my dim memory of it, I was quite intrigued at first by the Red Angel mystery, but also, points taken away, I guess, because it ties back to Spock, and Spock is her foster brother. Everything seems to revolve around Burnham. Everything is just, I don't know, so insular in the show. However, the introduction of Christopher Pike was a welcome change, especially given the betrayal by Lorca in the last season. I especially liked the scene in which Pike has his curriculum vitae. Is that right? His CV, and pointing out some of his flaws, some of his things that he could work on. He comes across as human, fallible, and more importantly, likable. It was a good way to quickly get us, the viewers, on Pike's side, given that the previous captain was, such a jerk. Unfortunately, I think Pike's appearance overshadows that of the main Discovery crew. The same goes for Tig Notaro's portrayal of Engineer Reno. She injects, dare I say, humor. Maybe more accurately, an edgier, perhaps cantankerous humor that we haven't seen in the show so far. Speaking of humor, I liked what Pike, and by extension the writers/producers of the show, tells us about Season 2. Quote, "Wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way too, huh?" So, do we? All right, on to episode 2, New Eden. Burnham confronts Pike about Spock's nightmares and his personal leave and learns that Spock had committed himself to a psychiatric unit and requested that Starfleet not inform his family. Discovery detects another of the signals and uses its spore drive to instantly travel to a planet, Terralysium, with a previously unknown human population. A looped transmission suggests the population departed Earth during World War III. Pike and Burnham lead an away team to the planet's surface and find a primitive society with a religion combining multiple human faiths. During the team's investigation, an anomaly produces an extinction-level radiation shower. Ensign Sylvia Tilly, after receiving advice from a medical staffer, uses a fragment of the non-baryonic asteroid to avert the catastrophe, later recognizing the staffer as classmate May Ahern, who died 5 years earlier. Returning to Discovery, Pike reviews footage from a helmet camera recovered on the planet to see that the population had been taken from Earth by the Red Angel from Burnham's vision. So, while they may not have hit it out of the park in the first episode of the second season of Star Trek Discovery, I loved New Eden. It felt like an old-school Star Trek episode where we discover, along with the crew, why there is a pre-warp human colony in the Beta Quadrant. I just love that concept. We get a little bit of Star Trek history via the World War III connections, along with the complication of General Order 1 in play, the non-interference General Order, which Pike is a good captain and is following. Unlike his successor. It's like a lot of Star Trek episode tropes wrapped up together. For example, pretending to be from another area when they go into the town, dealing with a prime directive, having to deal with someone who guesses who they are and wants to go with them. The crew being threatened by a Luddite society. The space disaster that has to be averted to save the planet and its population. All those things I've seen in other Star Trek episodes over the years. But it's still a satisfying mix, probably because it allows the characters to focus on something mostly beyond themselves and, Burnham. And we get another new character in the beginning of a new mystery in May, Tilly's dead middle school friend, who is now grown up but in a Starfleet uniform, curiously enough. And then finally, Pike gets another great line right before he experiences a spore jump for the first time. He says, and they played this in the Star Trek 55-year anniversary celebration that happened on Star Trek Day. Be bold, be brave, be courageous. I love this guy. Pike is just, I love Pike, which is interesting too, because I like the Pike of the Abrams verse Star Trek movies, the Kelvin timeline, played by Bruce Greenwood. I really enjoyed him in those first two films and wanted more. Okay, third episode, Point of Light. Spock's mother, Amanda Grayson, learns that he has escaped the psychiatric unit and is wanted for murdering 3 doctors. That doesn't sound like our Vulcan science officer. She steals his medical records and takes them to Discovery for decryption. Grayson recognizes a drawing in the records from Spock's childhood art, the Red Angel. Burnham admits to emotionally hurting Spock when they were young to protect him from Vulcan's logic extremists. On Kronos, Klingon House leader Kolsha threatens to kill Starfleet officer Ash Tyler, formerly the Klingon Vok, and the Klingon Empire's leader L'Rell for having a secret child. Instead, they kill him with the help of Philippa Georgiou, the former Empress of the Mirror Universe's Terran Empire, and now a Starfleet Section 31 agent. In a ruse to consolidate power, L'Rell convinces the Klingon High Council that Tyler and the baby are dead. Georgiou delivers the baby to a monastery and recruits Tyler to Section 31. Burnham and engineer Paul Stamets use dark matter to remove a parasite from Tilly that was causing her hallucination of May. All right, apologies to the Klingon fans out there, but really? The Klingons are back. Please God, no. I have not liked the Klingons from the get-go on this show. I still don't like them. I don't get these Klingons. I don't understand their motivations, their technology, the war, the whole war. I get why they wanted to have a war with the Federation, even though that should not have existed. And that's the second time this episode I've said it. Okay, I will stop repeating myself. I hope. Anyway, don't like these Klingons. But it does give us back Georgiou, whom I do like. Even though, see, this is why I talk about how the show is so insular, because we keep getting these same characters and concepts a lot. But in this case, apparently I'm a hypocrite because I like Georgiou. So Spock seeing the Red Angel as a child reminds me of him in the motion picture Sensing V'ger. There's always been something special about Spock. And on one hand, I like that. I like how that seems to be carried through, even though this is a retcon, something from the past. But it shows a connection through the motion picture with his half Vulcan telekinetic, his half Vulcan telepathy or telepathic ability. So yeah, that's interesting. Switching gears, though, I found the revelatory rift, the artificial rift that Burnham created between herself and Spock, especially contrived. But it does explain why Burnham was so skittish about potentially seeing Spock in episode 1. So, she hurts his feelings to somehow prevent him from being teased or worse by the logic extremists. I don't know, I guess. Okay. Even though I'm not too keen on the Burnham-Spock relationship so far, I still love the Tilly-Burnham relationship and how Burnham is like a big sister to Tilly, who continues to be one of my favorite characters on the show. Unfortunately, Pike came along so that she has a run for her money. And I found the Tilly plot here much more interesting, much more satisfying than anything having to do with Spock. And the idea of an alien fungus that's in Tilly, an alien fungus in Tilly, and they use the dark matter to remove it. Yeah, I just there's so much cool sci-fi concept stuff here in that particular storyline. All right, the next episode, An Obol for Karen. A living, intelligent, planetoid-sized sphere pulls Discovery out of warp and immobilizes it. The crew surmises the sphere is well-intentioned and has gathered gargantuan amounts of data from all over the galaxy that it does not want to be lost before it dies. However, the sphere's hold on Discovery triggers the... I've forgotten how they pronounce this. Vaharai, I'll just say, in Commander Saru, a fatal condition to his species, the Kelpians. Remember the threat ganglia situation with him. The sphere transmits its information to the crew and dies, releasing Discovery so as not to be caught in the ensuing explosion. Saru asks Burnham to help prepare for his death by removing his threat ganglia that I mentioned, which senses danger. However, they fall out on their own and leave Saru healthy and living without the overwhelming fear that he has experienced in the past. Meanwhile, the parasite reattaches itself to Tilly, accessing her memories to communicate as a hallucination of May. The parasite claims Discovery has nearly destroyed its ecosystem by using its species' mycelial network to jump through space with the spore drive. It then consumes Tilly, leaving no trace of her. Oh my God! No more Tilly? What? I was gonna, because they killed off the Doctor last season, and I thought, oh my God, if they kill Tilly, I'm done. It was like Tyrion in Game of Thrones. I swore if they ever killed that character off, I was done with the show. I didn't care where it was. Anyway, so that was a hell of a cliffhanger, I guess. So, like I said from the previous episode, I'm really liking the science fiction angles that they brought in this season. I just got so irritated and bored with the whole Klingon Federation War thing last season. But this time they're strange new worlds, new life forms, and new civilizations. That whole edict from the original series. They're starting to play with that a little bit, and I'm really appreciative of that. We get the Red Angel, this mysterious character that shows up in these critical moments. The fungal parasite, like I said, and now this sphere, which at first I thought was like a Dyson sphere, but not really. So, there's just this idea of this. Is it a machine? Is it a life form? And that it's been gathering data, this information. It's doing what the Federation's creed is, or credo. Mission statement. What the Federation's mission statement is. To explore, to learn, to know. So I'm really liking that. So I will say though, the sphere kind of reminded me a bit, just the idea of passing on this this gathered information. It reminds me a bit of the Next Generation's episode, The Inner Light. In fact, Saru even says after the sphere has died, quote, "The light, it is almost like music." And if you know the episode, The Inner Light, you know what happens to Picard, and he's living this entire lifetime in a matter of minutes, I think it was. And afterwards, because in this alternate life that he experiences through this memory transference, he had learned to play this flute, and at the end of the episode, he is able to play the flute as Picard. So that can't be coincidence, right? That has to be a nod to that episode. And this Discovery episode, that line has to be a nod to the Inner Light episode. So if so, that's great. If not, even better. It's just a wonderful happenstance, I guess. The interaction between Reno and Stamets reminds me of old McCoy and Spock arguments, which again, that's that acerbic humor that Reno brings into it. And Stamets is just he's not really liking it. I just love it. This show really needed an injection of interesting characters from outside of their established sphere. And so this is the right amount. You've got Pike as the new captain. You've got Reno here, and then everybody else just kind of interacting with them. It's just enough characters so as not to appear overwhelming or replacing the existing characters. Having said that, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with Rebecca Romijn's Una character. She comes in later, but but I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of them on Strange New Worlds. Okay, anyway, the situation with Saru was quite frankly well performed. I actually thought they were going to kill him off. So 2 times in this episode, I thought are they killing the character? But in Saru's case, it was, to me, it seemed like a distinct possibility that they were actually going to let, he would die. I'm glad they resolved the whole threat ganglia thing with Saru. When it was first introduced in the first season, I thought that's interesting. How does a species evolve with that bodily response to danger? I think I refer to it as Saru's spider sense. And then, more importantly, how does that danger threat assessment ability, how does that play into his role on the ship? And I don't think that they really successfully did anything with that. And it became more of a kind of a joke. There was at least 1 or 2 times where, his threat ganglia would kind of pop out. And I don't know, I just remember it being played for not laughs per se, but somewhat humorous moments to lighten the mood, I guess. Anyway, what it reminded me of was kind of like a sight gag of, Saru, quote unquote, pissing himself. So anyway, I'm glad they resolved that. And more importantly, I'm glad that they returned to this in a later episode. Next up is Saints of Imperfection. Stamets and Burnham conclude that Tilly has been taken into the mycelial network. And Tilly wakes up there with the May parasite who wants her to help stop a monster that is ravaging their world. Discovery finds the shuttle that Spock used to escape the psychiatric unit only to find Georgiou on board. Section 31, Captain Leland, assigns Tyler to Discovery as a liaison to ensure that Discovery does not interfere with Section 31's own investigation into Spock. Discovery conducts a half jump into the mycelial network, giving Stamets and Burnham limited time to find Tilly before the network consumes the ship. Burnham and Stamets discover the monster is Stamets' husband Hugh Culber, the former Discovery medical officer who was murdered by Tyler during the war. Stamets was connected to the network when Culber died, allowing his energy to be recreated by the spores. Burnham now convinces May to use the parasite cocoon on Discovery, through which Tilly was transported into the network, to rebuild Culber's body in normal space. Lots of stuff happened in this episode. Like I said, at the top of the show, I was so happy that Hugh Culber is back. I loved his and Stamets' relationship. And quite frankly, when Hugh was murdered by Tyler, that was one of the times I got really upset at the show. For more than just being disappointed in it. Anyway, this was the whole thing with Tilly and Culber and the cocoon, sort of like using the transporter to rebuild someone from an energy pattern. But I like the twist of it, the twist on it. Whatever they needed to do to get Culber back. Also, I really like the visual of the the Discovery being halfway in the mycelial network and not. That was just really cool the way they did that. And then inside and out when they showed that. So that whole idea of the mycelial network, I'm glad that they explored that more this season. But it appears that they are working towards not being able to use it or being limited or having limited use of the spore drive, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm really curious now what they do with the spore drive, if anything, in season 3. So it's one of the things I'm looking forward to finding out. Also, I love the idea of Section 31 when it was introduced in Deep Space Nine, but the fact that it goes back to the beginning of Starfleet, as we saw in Star Trek Enterprise, just kind of contributes to my growing sense of dread about the new Trek. And I talked about this in my Discovery Season 1 overview episode. This idea of, is this Star Trek? And part of that, what I'm reacting to, is this idea of, okay, let me back up. It makes sense that even an organization such as Starfleet would have a clandestine CIA-like operation to help keep the Federation secure. In fact, I think in Star Trek Into Darkness, with that admiral whose name I forget. I think he said something about, the Starfleet needs, the Federation needs Section 31 to help keep it safe and secure, the utopia that everyone thinks of it as. So, I get the idea, but that doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean I have to like the idea. I wish that Starfleet and the Federation itself, were ideals that everyone agreed to and worked hard to maintain without Section 31, without something like that. But, like I said, logically I get it, but doesn't mean I have to like it, especially when they focus so much on it. Okay, the sound of thunder. And here we come back to Saru and his people. Another of the mysterious signals leads Discovery to Saru's homeworld of Kaminar, where the Kelpians' predators, the Ba'ul, demand Pike surrender Saru, as Starfleet has agreed to stay out of the conflict between the two species. That doesn't seem right, does it? Pike refuses, but Saru turns himself over to prevent a fight. Tilly works with technologically augmented Lieutenant Commander Arium to sift through the sphere's information on Kaminar. They learn that the post-Vaharai Kelpians were once Kaminar's dominant species and nearly eradicated the Ba'ul, with the latter only surviving by using their superior technology to cull Kelpians before they lose their threat ganglia. Pike uses the Ba'ul's technology to trigger Vaharai in all Kelpians, hoping the two species can instead work towards a peaceful solution once the Kelpians are freed and learn the truth about their past from Saru's priestess sister, Sirana. That was a long sentence. The Ba'ul retaliate to Starfleet's actions by attempting to commit genocide, but are stopped by the Red Angel, whom Saru sees is a humanoid wearing a highly advanced suit. Okay, while I like Saru, I have not found his species intriguing at all, and this episode did not really change my mind. It's a weird setup. It's like the Kelpians are this one thing. They have the threat ganglia, the danger sense thing, and then layered on top of that is this whole situation with the Ba'ul, and the fact that the Ba'ul, like I said, they call the Kelpians before they lose their threat ganglia, although the Kelpians don't know that at this point. So there's not much more to them than that, although, Star Trek has built alien races upon far less, I suppose. So I think I'm being a little too critical of this. Probably because, and, I will excuse myself in this way, because this is such an interesting idea in that the Ba'ul, turn the tables on their former masters, I guess. And so how does that work? And over time, it becomes this bizarre, we have to keep them in check situation by killing off part of the species so that they don't, I guess, grow in number and realize that they don't have the control over the Kelpians that the Kelpians think the Ba'ul have. I don't know. There's some really good ideas in here, but they just kind of get rid of it. I mean, in one episode, they introduce the idea and then they resolve the idea. in one episode. I think that's really what I'm kind of bumping up against. And it, other than the fact that Saru is pretty indignant here when he goes up against the Baul and violates the Prime Directive, even though he said he wasn't going to, by talking to his sister, I believe, and others. Maybe I can't remember now exactly, but he sees the light, so to speak, because he lost his threat ganglia before, and now he doesn't have that fearful reaction, especially to the Baul, and like I said, he's indignant, he's angry. That makes a lot of sense too, So everything that Saru did in this episode makes sense to me. I just, like I said, it was introduced and resolved in one episode. I mean, earlier Star Treks have done that, so why am I complaining about it? Like I said, I just see this as wasted opportunity for something to develop, especially in the way that they are telling these season-long arcs, these ideas that they do focus on over the course of a season, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. And here we have this interesting idea, this new alien race, or two new alien races, and they just, here it is, bye. So anyway, unlike what they did, for example, with the Klingons in the Next Generation, where they introduced Klingon society and Klingon characters over time, and over the course of many years, they developed the Klingon society out of basically nothing. Of little bits and pieces from the original series, and developed it even into something even better than what we saw in the original series. So there you go. Not a favorite episode of mine. All right, Light and Shadows. Discovery is confronted by a time anomaly while researching the Red Angel's signal over Kaminar. Pike and Tyler investigate the anomaly in a shuttlecraft, sending a probe into it. They are soon attacked by that same probe, now upgraded with future technology, which uses their shuttle's computer system to secretly infect Arium. They are able to destroy it with Stamets's help, as his exposure to the network allows him to ignore the mycelial network, which allows him to ignore the time discrepancies in the anomaly. Meanwhile, Burnham visits Vulcan as she continues to search for Spock. Not that movie. Confronting Grayson, Burnham learns that she has been hiding Spock, who is in psychological distress, repeating phrases and a series of numbers. His father, Sarek, instructs Burnham to trust Starfleet and take Spock to Section 31 for help in fixing his mind. Section 31's doctors claim that they can help him, but Georgiou warns Burnham that Spock will not survive the memory extractor that Section 31 plans to use on him. Georgiou helps Burnham stage an attack that allows Burnham and Spock to escape the ship. My reaction to this episode, the show is so much better when Pike is central to the scene or the plot. It's a cool mystery regarding the upgraded probe tech. However, which, if memory serves, that probe, when it came back out, having been upgraded, I could be wrong, but it looked a lot like it came from the Matrix movies. The whole thing with Spock, we saw Amanda confront Burnham, telling Burnham that Spock was innocent, and whatnot. But what I can't remember now is, was Amanda hiding Spock this entire time? And if so, why did she then go to Burnham for help? Or was it? And maybe this was answered in the episode. I've just forgotten. Or was it that in the intervening episodes that Amanda found Spock and then was hiding him? So I think it's the latter. Pretty sure it was. It's kind of interesting that Sarek, tells Burnham to trust Section 31. I mean, really, Sarek? Really? Oh boy. And I think there was a line in this episode with Georgiou and the way that she regards Burnham like a daughter, and she is willing to go against her own instincts, her own survival instincts, to help this other woman out. So I really like that. I like that relationship. All right. If memory serves, The next episode, previously the Enterprise visited Talos 4, where Pike and Spock met the Talosians, beings that can create incredible illusions. Pike fell in love with Vina, an injured Federation crewman in the Talosians' care, but she was unable to leave the planet and survive, while Pike chose to return to the Enterprise. Starfleet banned future visits to Talos 4. Now, Burnham and Spock secretly travel there, where the Talosians heal Spock's mind in exchange for Burnham's memories of emotionally scarring Spock. The latter reveals that he mind-melded with the Red Angel, a time traveler trying to avert a galactic catastrophe in the future. Stamets attempts to reconnect with Culber, who is going through an identity crisis. Culber confronts Tyler, but realizes that he, too, is going through a similar crisis. Discovery collects Spock and Burnham after the Talosians help Vina contact Pike by telepathically projecting illusions of Spock and Burnham for Section 31 to capture as a distraction. Escaping, Discovery and its crew become fugitives from Starfleet. This episode kind of made me feel Star Trek should avoid going back to the past, generally speaking. Sometimes the reinterpretations of things that we've already seen in other incarnations of Trek don't quite hold up to the original, which is weird because, where I'm talking about the Talosians themselves and the difference between the original series and Discovery, some 50 years later. It's kind of like revisiting a favorite TV show or movie from when you were a kid and finding it wanting. So I don't know. On paper, this sounded like a good episode that touched on Star Trek's past. So I'm not sure why I didn't really respond to this one more favorably. It could be that this is the danger of reflecting on this show after so much time has passed since I watched it. Reading through if memory serves, yeah, pardon the pun, what I remember of the show, and then reading through the synopsis of it, there wasn't much here. It was kind of by the numbers, I guess. So there you go. Next up is Project Daedalus. Starfleet Admiral Katrina Cornwell secretly joins Discovery to interrogate Spock and brings video footage depicting Spock murdering the three doctors. Saru discovers that Section 31 faked the footage using holograms, and Cornwell directs Discovery to Section 31 HQ, where Starfleet's Control artificial intelligence is kept. Control is behind the forgery and has been directing Section 31 to pursue Spock. Burnham, Security Officer Nan, and Ariam beam into the HQ to find the personnel, including Section 31's leadership, dead after Control turned off life support systems. Ariam is tasked with restoring control to Starfleet's intended purpose, but the virus from the future she carries is Control itself, and instead attempts to upload the sphere's knowledge of artificial intelligence into Control's database. Ariam asks to be ejected into space before Control gains the knowledge that it wishes, and Nan does so before it is too late. Ariam dies, reliving her favorite memory from before she was technologically augmented. So this was this season's Culber moment for me because, and unlike Culber, where we had several episodes of him and getting to know him and his relationship to Stamets and how he interacts with the rest of the crew, Ariam's been really much a background player, really, for the most part. Until this episode, when we get a lot of backstory and we see a lot of her memories of when she was with I think her husband, and the people on with the crew, the memories that she has with the crew and all these things, and so that really made me want to know her more. And yet here she is done. She's dead in this episode. So. Like I said, I because of this, I was upset with this episode, but I liked the sacrifice. She knows she can't stop Control, and she knows the danger if she's allowed to finish off what Control is making her do, and she chooses to sacrifice herself anyway. And to me, that, while unfortunate, is what Starfleet should be about. It's about the greater good. But like I said, kind of a wasted opportunity, wasted character, in a sense. All right, next up is the Red Angel. While preparing for Ariam's funeral, her system is purged of the control virus along with all other control systems around Starfleet. While doing this, Tilly discovers a bioneural scan of the Red Angel in Ariam's code that matches Burnham. Leland reveals that Section 31 built the Red Angel time travel suit 20 years ago in a temporal arms race with the Klingons, and that Burnham's parents had been part of that program, with Leland's carelessness at the time leading to their deaths. They now plan to use Burnham as bait for the Red Angel. Discovery travels to ESOF 4, where there is enough energy to power their trap. Burnham is left out in the planet's unbreathable atmosphere until the Red Angel appears. Leland's Section 31 ship is able to close the wormhole behind the Red Angel to stop future control from following her through, though Leland is attacked by the present control, which is still active within his ship. The Red Angel is caught in the trap and revives the momentarily dead Burnham, who recognizes the figure as her mother. Okay, so when they first said something about the Red Angel, the bioneural scan of the Red Angel matches Burnham, like, oh yeah, this is what I have been thinking all season long, that the Red Angel is Burnham. Well, I was partly right. So it's Burnham's mom, so it's still a Burnham. So anyway. Beyond that, the temporal arms race? What? With the Klingons? What? Huh? See, this is what I was saying earlier about the Klingons. It's like, you look at the Klingons and the way that they are presented, and I'm like, how can they have any kind of, temporal technology? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But, got to use the Klingons because they're part of the season. They're part of this milieu. So, although I do wonder, is this some sort of nod to the animated series episode More Tribble, More Troubles, where the Klingons have a stasis field generator? So maybe. And if not, I'll choose. It's in my headcanon now. So whatever. Perpetual Infinity, when the Burnham's laboratory, so this is where we get that backstory with Burnham, Burnham's parents, when in the Burnham's laboratory was attacked by Klingons years ago, Michael's mother donned the time travel suit to go back in time an hour and warn them of the attack. Instead, she arrives 950 years into the future to find all sentient life destroyed by control. Tethering herself to a nearby planet, Dr. Burnham made over 840 attempts to change the future, including moving humans to her planet Terra Elysium to test how she can change history. Trying to stop control from gaining the sphere's data, Dr. Burnham was responsible for it crossing paths with the Discovery. Now the Discovery crew plans to upload the data into the suit and send it into the future where control cannot access it, while keeping Dr. Burnham in the present. But a control-possessed Leland intercepts their download. Georgiou and Tyler confront Leland, with Tyler gravely injured but able to warn Discovery. The crew is forced to cut the transmission short and release Dr. Burnham back to the future, with the suit now damaged. Control Leland escapes with half of the sphere data. So, another good concept episode with the whole time travel thing, that nearly 1,000 years in the future, 840 attempts to change the future. Imagine Dr. Burnham's state of mind here. Seeing the total destruction of sentient life in the galaxy, presumably, continually trying to change the past, the future, by changing events in the past. Things are starting to tie in together, the whole Terra Elysium planet and the humans there. But, I wish all this stuff is being revealed to us in this one episode, and yet the things that were talked about just happened in just a few episodes. I don't know. Maybe what I'm reacting to here in another episode is that in other Star Trek series, the number of episodes per season were, almost double, not quite double, what we get here in this season of Discovery. And so there's something that could be introduced in an early episode of the season could be touched on, towards the end. And there's enough time in between that it doesn't seem so contrived. That's not quite the right word, but I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about. That's how I'm thinking about it anyway. But yeah, just the whole idea of what happens to Burnham's mom. And I thought the actress did a really good job overall of conveying that. I mean, because you would expect this emotional connection between the two, because they haven't seen each other in decades, right? And yet, Dr. Burnham, as I recall, was pretty cold and short with Burnham and everybody else, because it was all about the mission. Because from her perspective, everything is dead, and she's tried so many times to change that, and it hasn't happened yet. So to her, these are like shadows. They're not really there. They're not really important, in fact, which that causes some issues between her and her daughter. So I like this episode for that aspect for sure. All right, here we are, the penultimate episode of the season, so to speak, Through the Valley of Shadows. A new signal appears over Boreth, a place sacred to Klingons where a Klingon monastery is located and where monks guard time crystals. Tyler and L'Rell left their son to be raised there by these monks. Pike visits the monastery to retrieve a time crystal and finds the son is now a fully grown adult named Tenavik. Tenavik explains that life on Boreth is affected by the crystals, and that if Pike takes one, he will not be able to change the future that it shows him. Pike sees a future where he is severely disabled in an accident, but chooses to take the crystal to serve the greater good. Meanwhile, Burnham and Spock investigate a Section 31 ship that had checked in 10 minutes later than usual and find all the crew dead except for one, Cameron Gant, an old colleague of Burnham who has been possessed by control and attempts to take over Burnham. Spock is able to stop control with magnetism, and they escape back to Discovery. The Section 31 fleet soon arrives, forcing Pike to order Discovery be destroyed to keep the sphere data away from control. Okay, so now I guess the temporal arms race referenced, a few episodes ago now makes sense, I guess. Even if the Klingons having time crystals? Time crystals, really? Now comes across as a bit contrived. As in, we need time crystals for this particular plot, so let's give them to the Klingons so we don't waste the makeup budget. I know, I'm being unfair. Okay, so, back to the story. Why is it that if you take a crystal, you cannot alter the future you see in it? What's the mechanics here? What are the rules? Why is it like that? I don't know. Just because I don't know. I find, like I said, it's all contrived. It's just to further the plot along. Okay, well, just do this. I don't know. There's no organic development of these things. And again, I come back to, I blame that on the shorter number of episodes in the season. I'm not saying I want a longer season. I don't know. I just want these things to be better developed over the episodes that we do get, I guess. I don't know. I'm being overly critical. I know. Why am I being overly critical? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you think I am being overly critical, and I'm sure you do. How did you view this stuff? Tell me why I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to enjoy this more. And I thought I did when I was preparing my notes, but as I talk about it, I'm like, I'm getting irritated about these things. And just Trek. Why am I getting irritated? I love Trek. I really do. Okay. As with Arium, Pike here proves that Starfleet is about the greater good at times. So I like that through line in these Starfleet characters. He's a great captain, and I think he's a hero. They're showing him to be a hero because he chooses the greater good despite the future he sees for himself. And, quite honestly, I can't think of a better role model these days. Okay, here we go. We get the final 2 episodes, a 2-parter, Such Sweet Sorrow Part 1. Discovery escapes and rendezvous with the Enterprise, with Discovery evacuated onto the other starship. From there, they initiate the self-destruct, but the sphere data takes control of Discovery systems and prevents this from happening. It also defends itself from torpedoes. Burnham proposes that the time crystal be used to take Discovery itself to the future, where Control cannot get to it, planning to wear a copy of her mother's suit to lead the ship there. Pike agrees and resumes command of the Enterprise to keep Control distracted. A new signal appears, leading Discovery and Enterprise to the planet, I don't remember how it's pronounced, Zahea, which is ruled by Tilly's friend, Queen Mehani Ika Hale Kapo. A brilliant engineer, Poe assists Stamets, Tilly, and Reno with preparing the suit and time crystal for the journey. Some of the Discovery's crew choose to stay with Burnham, as does Georgiou, while Saru is made acting captain by Pike. As the Section 31 fleet arrives, Discovery and Enterprise prepare for battle while the suit and time crystal are finalized. Part 2, Tyler retrieves the Klingon fleet to assist in the battle, while Sarana arrives with Ba'ul fighters after receiving a farewell message from Saru. Stamets is seriously injured and is cared for by Culber. A Section 31 torpedo penetrates the Enterprise without detonating, but a secondary detonation kills Cornwell after she seals off the surrounding area. Control Leland boards Discovery and is defeated when Georgiou magnetizes the nanites in his body, allowing Section 31's fleet to be destroyed. In the suit, Burnham travels to the past and sets the 5 signals that led them to this point. She then sets a 6th for Discovery to follow as she travels forward over 900 years, and promises to set a 7th when they arrive. The crew of the Enterprise tell Starfleet that Discovery was destroyed in the battle and are ordered to never speak of it or the crew again, on Spock's recommendation, to prevent another incident like Control. Tyler is placed in command of Section 31. Months later, the Enterprise detects the 7th signal as it begins a new adventure. Okay, obviously we get the setup with Pike and his crew on the Enterprise for Strange New Worlds. We get the setup for Discovery Season 3 being in the future. However, before we get to all that, it was Burnham after all. I was right. I wish I weren't. I liked it better if it was the mom that was doing all this stuff. But anyway, how fortunate that the main bridge crew. Speaking of going to the future, how fortunate that the main bridge crew are all of them are okay with abandoning their families and friends to trek into the future. Here we come back to that whole contrivance thing. And all that to explain why we've never heard of Burnham and the Spore Drive and Discovery in the intervening history of Trek. And how exactly, logically, is it better to shroud Discovery in secrecy when it was secrecy that got Starfleet in this mess in the first place with Control in Section 31? I don't understand Spock's logic there. Yeah, I've already said this word too much. But the contrived nature of the season, it's too much. Okay, so overall, I guess Season 2 was still an improvement to me over Season 1, even though why does everything have to revolve around Burnham? Burnham's mother, Spock, she's like a singularity in the show, pulling everybody in. As I said before, Pike made the season vastly better, but I don't think we quite got to the part where we were supposed to have fun. Definitely looking forward to, like I said, Strange New Worlds. I'm secretly hoping that they transfer Jet Reno to the Enterprise because I want to see her there. Although she's probably more needed on Discovery. So hopefully the actress can continue to make appearances on the show. I keep asking if Discovery is Star Trek. And I think they made some big improvements in regards to the sci-fi elements and including Pike on the show, who seems to embody the best of Starfleet, even if others in the organization do not, including at times some members of Discovery's crew. So I think that's why I keep bumping up against Discovery in this way. It's like a reflection of our times. As Star Trek and science fiction in general have always done. And I guess I do not like our times. And so Discovery is that reflection I don't care for. And that's part of why I think I'm being overly critical. I'm reacting to something that I'm supposed to be entertained by and that ostensibly I love, but it's too familiar. This is overstating it, but painful, I guess, in a way. I don't like the dark elements of the show. I don't like how Starfleet. I don't like Section 31. I don't like those aspects. And it's not just Discovery. I mean, they did it in the Kelvin timeline movies, and they're doing it in Picard. And I just not looking forward to more of that. But you have to endure the darkness before the dawn arrives. And so, I guess let's see where season 3 takes me. Obviously, I think I will like, I did like the Pike stuff more. It's more nostalgic. And so I imagine I'll enjoy Strange New Worlds more than Discovery based on that, based on everything I've read about or seen about Strange New Worlds. So anyway, in season 3 of Discovery, will Discovery being in the future the 32nd century? I've read. I'm not sure of that. Hopefully the wiki information I read is correct. Will that divorce it enough from Star Trek's past to forge a new future for Trek, Star Trek in general? Not just for Discovery, but for Trek in general. Will it be enough of a disconnect to break out of this darker realm that it's inhabited for these 2 seasons? Will they have fun? Based on the bits and pieces I've seen, it seems like it. But I also felt that way going into season 2 as well. So, but I will say, despite the negativity that you may have gotten from me about season 2, I'm very much looking forward to watching season 3 and all the rest. So maybe not so much Picard now, season 2, but anyway. I'm looking forward to watching season 3. That's what I'll leave with. How about that? All right. Like I said before, I am very curious how you reacted to season 2 of Discovery and would love to hear your thoughts on season 2. No spoilers on season 3 though. So, keep those to a minimum or don't even tell me anything about season 3. But hopefully I'll be back much sooner to talk about season 3 of Discovery than I was for this season 2. So anyway, contact me. Longbox Review, Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those places you can get a hold of me. Go to longboxreview.com, leave comments there where all these episodes are posted. And if you don't mind, leave a review on iTunes or other podcatchers where you can do so and spread the word about Center Seat, my Star Trek podcast. I would very much appreciate that. And as always, live long and prosper. Thanks for listening.